Good afternoon, guys. My name is Maggie LeGrand. I am a national volunteer for Omicron Delta Kappa. I'm a graduate of East Carolina University, and I was part of ODK there. Today, you will be hearing April Schrank-Hacker, ED. She will be presenting to you, so just to give you a little bio about her. So April Schrank-Hacker, ED, Principal Content and Evidence at Lycia Biosystems, is a clinical laboratory specialist in cytogenetics, having over 20 years of experience in technological research, innovation, and laboratory management. April earned her BS in clinical laboratory sciences with a specialization in cytogenetics from Thomas Jefferson University and is certified in cytogenetics. Her master's degree was earned from the University of Pennsylvania in organizational dynamics with dual certifications in organizational development and change studies and organizational leadership. Dr. Schrank-Hacker earned her doctoral degree in organizational leadership, where she was a distinguished research fellowship scholar for her work on building high-performing leadership and team in domains of chaos and complexity, and has authored over 30 peer-reviewed publications and posters. So just remember, guys, to stay muted while Dr. Schrank-Hacker is presenting. You can use the chat box, and you can use the raise hand at the bottom of the Zoom. So Dr. Schrank-Hacker.
Hi, thank you, Maggie. That was a great introduction. I know it's a long thing to say, but I appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come. My name is April Schrank-Hacker, and I survived graduation in 2020. My talk today will share my experiences and learnings through my doctoral research and the aha moments that not only helped me cross the finish line, but continue to thrive. I hail from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I'm a scientist by day and a student by night. My training is in clinical laboratory science, and I specialize in cytogenetics. And that's where I perform diagnostics for cancer patients at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and the University of Pennsylvania. I came there as an undergrad, and I stayed so long that they actually gave me a master's degree and 2 leadership certificates so I can get on my way and get going. I transitioned about 2 years ago, and I'm currently a principal at Lycia Biosystems, working with laboratories around the world to enable clinicians to efficiently provide patients a highly confident diagnosis within 24 hours of biopsy. So just before we get started, I'm very conversational. So if anybody has any questions, just please pop them in the chat and Maggie will let me know and we can talk about stuff. And also grab a piece of paper and a pencil because we're going to play a little bit of a card game as we go along. To ODK. I was inducted into ODK in 2018. And at 50, I believe I was the oldest initiate that Stockton's ever had. The night of the ceremony, I sat with the other students and I was so anxiously awaiting for the festivities to begin. And gently, this young man tapped me on my arm and he quietly looked at me and said, "The parent section is up above," and offered to take me up there. And I winked at him and said, "Thank you, kind sir. If they arrive, I'll let them know." So why is that story still important to me? It's because today I plan to talk with you about 3 key findings to help challenge your assumptions and use feedback to build trust and multiple perspectives in order to gain diversity of thought in your personal leadership. And what I want to share with you is that it begins within. So today, I will share with you a little bit about my research, and I promise I will spare you all the illustrious details, and I'll just give you 3 highlights towards the end of the presentation, just to help you link up ideas. And I will share with you some groundbreaking concepts that stretch what I thought I knew and allowed me to really learn and grow in new ways. And finally, we will explore vertical leadership, the self-estimate tool, and learn a couple concepts along the way about creating a playbook for you to author your own story. About my research. So what I found were there were really 3 main things of adult transformations in my research. Understanding yourself and relating to others through feedback, by building trust and working together to utilize multiple perspectives to understand things in new ways. And we'll talk more about that later. during my time as a student, 3 leadership frameworks really changed the way I think. And I'll tell you a little bit about them. The first is Albert Bandura's social learning theory. It's called triadic reciprocity. And what is triadic reciprocity? It's really using an idea of triangulating interior, inside you, and exterior information to take action. It's really just a fancy term for using information to learn. We all call it feedback, right? So, but your early experiences really model for you what you come to believe and how you act, and influences your degree of efficacy. The next one I want to share with you is Torbert's action inquiry. So it's also called action logic. We'll talk about that. So what this really is it taught me about the 7 stages of adult thinking and action that help you to grow and change over our lifetimes, and when to choose how it's best to use each one. So today we'll really focus primarily on this aspect of and learn a little bit more about action logics today. And the third one is Snowden and Boone's Cynefin framework. And what this is really a decision-making tool that has 5 contexts, they call them domains, that helps a leader in his perception about situations and how to make sense of behaviors of yourself and of others. So using this tool really helped me to understand that different situations require us to make sense of information in different ways and manage or solve problems. But the most important thing I took away from this was that not every tool is a hammer and not every problem is a nail. So it just helps you think about things in a little bit of a different perspective. So it all begins within. So I had this aha moment when these 3 things just collided in my mind, and it helped me think through some things, because I have always believed, based on my early life, that I could never graduate high school or attend college or even study something hard, nonetheless become a doctor. But that was what was modeled for me. So remember back to that triadic reciprocity, right? It's what you believe inside. But what I learned from these 3 theories was that I choose intentionally in every moment how to use that information to think and act and solve problems, and to continue to grow as an adult and as a leader. And you can do it too. And here's how. So action inquiry is really a process of in the moment awareness, constantly checking in with your inner and outer worlds to decide how best to act now for yourself and in service to others. We move through these 7 action logics as we grow and develop into adulthood, and retain each stage as we stretch into the next, maintaining those skills and abilities when we move from situation to situation. How we navigate and move between them is very fluid, and it's described by Herdman Barker and Dr. Wallace as called dynamic fluidity. The practice of action inquiry grows personal and organizational growth and transformation. And you can do this by really evaluating your action logics in yourself first, and understanding how what space other people might be in. And then becoming aware of your mental and emotional habits of thinking that may limit your efficacy. Just like I thought I could never graduate high school, right? That's what I believe because that's what people taught me. So also you can use this to really use your power to create transformations. If you believe it, this will help you understand the pathway for how to do it. And building collaborative practices to grow capacities, build trust, and see through and use multiple perspectives. This will help you grow the skills to become a confident leader. So here's where we're going to play this game. So through this, we're going to start this guide. So this is where I need you to get out your paper and pencil. I got a little lost there, sorry. You got to get out your paper and pencil because we're going to play this little card game. So it's going to help you identify where you might be in your action logic. So this, like we've talked about earlier, this process is really for you to become aware of where you are in the moment and what space you might be in, so you can understand how to manage how you might be reacting to something that's coming towards you. Another conversation, another meeting, another, person that you might be having conflict with, just to understand where they're coming from. So, but action logics are not only personal, they're individual and cultural too. So once you get good at this, you can really start looking at different organizations and see where they might be. It sounds kind of weird in the beginning, but as you go through, you'll see. So really right now, just focus on where you are and where you might be at work or at school. So again, a little bit of a game. So just have fun with it. It's just something that just to try out, right? So there'll be the next 5 screens. There's going to be cards on here that have a number. So I want you to look at all the different cards and pick the one that you feel like most represents you right now in this moment and write down that number. Okay. Okay, so here we go. Just take a look at the pictures, read through them, and just pick the one you feel like most represents you right now. Okay, if we're all good, I'm going to move to the next one. Okay, same thing. Just look through them and pick what you feel represents. Okay, same thing. Okay. I'm going to go to the next one. Do we need more time? Okay, I'll go to the next one. And this is the last one. Okay, I'm going to move on now. So that's all 5. So what these are the continuums of the 7 action logics, right? So there's the list here for you. You're going to walk through all of these. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go through and kind of break down what each one is and what they are associated behaviors with those that you can come to recognize in yourself and with others. So just look and see if anything feels like this now, or you might have felt like this in the past, because you'll have a little bit of all these things from moment to moment. So just we'll go through them. Maggie, I think there's somebody in the waiting room. I'm seeing that on my screen. Okay. So the first one you're going to see is the opportunist. So an opportunist really works in a short time. So they're very short term. I need something and I need it now. That's the kind of person you're going to see. They really are, I don't want to say manipulative, but manipulative. They do what they need to get what they want, and that's it. It's eye for an eye, and if you do me, I'm going to do you the same way. So it's that's kind of that way it is. The next one is a diplomat. So the diplomat really pays attention, is really focused on rules, and they don't like any kind of conflict. Conflict makes them feel very uncomfortable, and they will be very happy to do what the group wants, even if it's not what they want. That's a characteristic. Very conscious of how they look and how they feel and how they fit in to a group, and it can change from group to group. So the expert. An expert is exactly like what you think of when you think of an expert in something. So problem solving, very strong love data, logic, everything has to be logical and linear. Very critical of themselves if they feel like they don't get something right. And they all typically really only will accept feedback from somebody who they perceive to be at their level or expertise or higher. Anyone else is like, nobody knows this better than me and I don't have to listen to you, right? So that's what the expert is. The next one is achiever. Achievers are very, very results oriented. They're the ones who are working in all the different teams and are bringing people in and getting things done. They are the achievers. Achievers are probably about 80% of the population tests comes in at about achiever. They're our highest ones. Most leaders that we see in organizations fall under the achiever or expert action logic. So redefining, people who are redefining they're interesting. They're very highly collaborative people. And they're the ones that are always thinking, hey, maybe we can try this, or maybe we could do that. And when problems seem very linear, they're like, oh, wait, I have this idea and I want to try this, right? So they're always thinking about doing things different, pushing boundaries. And one characteristic word is almost always used, and they're called mavericks. So, oh yeah, they're a maverick. They always want to do things, that are way out there and push us where we don't want to go, right? So maverick is always a word that you hear. Oh, for achiever, one for achiever is this, I'm always out of time, right? Always pushing against the clock because they're always so busy. So achiever, I forgot to say that, sorry, but redefining is the change agent. They're the ones trying to make the change and sometimes causing some waves. Transforming is very strategic, but they're also very aware of to do the right thing in the right moment. Like they can see interconnections between things and they see how things can flow way before other people can sometimes. And the feedback, they give you very transformative feedback that can help you move from one place to another. It's not just do this, but it's just, this will help you because there's a difference in the kind of feedback that they give. And alchemical. So alchemical is on the very other end of the spectrum in terms of the action logic. Opportunist is down here, it's all about me. Now alchemical is on the very far end of that, and it's always all about us, about the greater good. It's about humanity, and they're always trying to do things that push boundaries, but it's in service to something greater than themselves. So you think about Martin Luther King or Gandhi, that kind of, Mother Teresa, always out there doing for others in service to, right? Greater than myself. They speak in a lot of metaphors too that sometimes I don't understand, but that's just one of the things that you see about alchemical people. They're brilliant. So here, again, there's just a little summary of what you might see on this continuum from opportunist to alchemical. So it comes from it's all about me in these places. And then the redefining and achieving is kind of in the middle. They're kind of coming together and bringing people in. And then the other end of is the expertise, diplomat, and opportunist, all about me, right? They're kind of, I am the best at this. It's about me. And listen, I'm late for work, so I'm going to cut you off to get there. Like opportunist. I've been there a million times. So we all occupy all these spaces. So why is this important? So this is important because I want to share with you that I believe from my research that this all begins from within. So if you look at this graphic, how many triangles do you see? You see 3, 4, 4, 4. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, there's 4 here. So what that actually means, why that's important to me is the center one. The center triangle is where you begin. You begin within, and for this model, this is kind of putting you in the center of this communication universe, right? So bringing that awareness to how you are really brings you into the moment as you give and receive feedback, and when you communicate and listen, and when you take in others' perspectives. So those outward three triangles are built in there to offer you insights, how you can give and receive feedback, build trust, and really take in multiple perspectives when you're solving a problem. So finally, I promised you there would be 3 slides. Here they are. So here's the implications of the findings. So the first one in the bottom triangle is feedback, right? So what feedback is fundamental. So the way you use and interpret information, check in with yourself first and understand along that continuum, where are you in that moment? What action logic are you coming from? Are you in an expert frame where you may or may not take feedback depending on who it's coming from, right? So just if you're aware of where you are, you can take and give feedback in very, very different ways. So in my research, what I found was each participant really internalized information in a different way, and their values that came from within really guide what they're going to take in and what they're not, right? So how you are processing that information is really based on, like we said, that idea, that triadic reciprocity, right? What you believe filters through how you act. So, and what this showed me was that the feedback really affected and guided the way each leader chose and acted and communicated with others. So just keep in mind, feedback is fundamental. And the next one is building trust. So building trust is topmost. There's nothing more important than building trust in these relationships. And every single solitary participant, every single one, had a theme of trust that came through. And what they told me was that communication is so important to those that you lead, and building that trust really brings this space of safety, that it's okay to share ideas and it's okay to share feelings. And they can do that without, waving out their vulnerability flag and saying, hey, I feel this way. Because you build this space of trust, they feel that as your leader, you can have real and honest and true conversations about what's going wrong and what's going right? And you need that transparency to really be able to lead people. And here, the same thing. So I started getting on a roll about it. But again, this honesty, this examples of honesty, really being able to bring everyone to the table and tell them that you belong, it helps you build that trust in that something bigger than themselves, right? Once you bring people in and invite them to the table, you're really telling them what you say matters to me, right? And that always makes me feel good. Like, it always makes me feel like that, and I trust the people that tell me that, because I know that they're there for me. And the last one that we'll talk about, the last theme that I found, is this idea of use of multiple perspectives. So being able to use multiple perspectives are really like this mosaic of tools that you use that's outside your regular scope of thinking, right? So if I'm inhabiting one space doing a job or in a task, and I'm in my expert mode as I have my scientist hat right on. So I'm in my expert mode and I know what I'm doing, and nobody else is going to tell me how to build that essay because I build it. Nobody knows it better than me. What am I missing? What am I missing by asking somebody or listening to somebody who says, hey, I don't understand why you're doing that. Or what if we use this reagent instead of that, because I know that this tack works better than, right? I would be missing that. I would be missing that perspective and that information because I think I know. So the use of multiple perspectives really is about acquiring new ways of thinking and seeing the world by inviting those people in and letting them share with you, right? Because if you don't do that, you're always going to be where you are and you're never going to learn anything new. So the key that I loved about this was a quote from Jennifer Garvey Berger. And she said, understanding other people's perspectives is a really central tool in building bridges, because until you understand what's on their side of their bridge, you're never going to be able to communicate or influence them, ever. So great reference, great book. And they'll also, if you're interested, like when we get to the end, I have all the references and the books to share with you. So here, bring it all together. So what I did with the end of the research was I built this model that uses 3 questions that you can use in any moment. You don't have to have a laptop. You don't need a book. You don't need, a piece of paper. You really just think to yourself these 3 questions. Who am I? So always be aware in every moment where you are, so that you know that the feedback that you're getting and the feedback that you're giving is impactful and it's kind, right? Because I don't know about you, but I've gotten feedback that has crushed me over the years. There were, and not that it wasn't good, the delivery was not so great, but, but still, we're talking about building trust, right? Bad feedback really hurts. It hurts everybody. So just be mindful of that feedback, because what you give influences what you get. So just be mindful of the feedback. The second one is around that developing trust, right? So I always ask, who's in my room? Meaning, what action logics am I working with as a team? And who are the people that I'm working with? Normally, like you pretty well know people's habits. And then the more you get to learn about the action logics, you can start identifying who is the achiever and who is, who's in your room, who's the expert. And it helps me come to them where they are to have a real conversation, right? Because if I'm in redefining, or if I'm in, an achiever, and I try and talk to an expert with my redefining, oh, I'm going to change the boundaries, and oh, I want to do this, and oh, I want to change, whoa. They're going to automatically be like, nope, not doing it. Like, it automatically puts up a boundary between us, right? So understanding and practicing that awareness of your action and your logics of not only of yourself in the center, but of who's in my room, right? So the third one that I found, the third theme, was this use of multiple perspectives. And how do you find out what that is? Well, you ask, what's my problem, right? What kind of problem am I having? And what's contributing to that? So, and who can I ask to help me that's not just like me, right? I need different perspectives to solve. I can't solve the same problem in the same way that I'm doing it currently, or it wouldn't be a problem. I would solve it and it would be done. Right. So being able to use these different perspectives helps you get, a fresh look, a new lens. It kind of shifts things a little bit and brings people to the table. So those are the kind of ways that I'm suggesting to you that you can kind of write this playbook to really reauthor your own story with this awareness of using these 3 little questions to question, where am I, who's in my room, and what's my problem? So again, for creating your own strategic playbook, I just wanted to kind of walk through and talk about the action logics, see if anybody had any questions about them, because I know it's a kind of a novel kind of thing that many people haven't really heard of yet. So you might be the first ones to know about it, but it really is impactful and it really is useful once you start practicing it. So if there's any questions, you can ask Maggie. If not, I'm going to kind of go ahead and I'll drop some stuff and give you some information about, what we can do and how you can do that. So for me, that's kind of where we are and how we use this kind of research in this graphic, which is also down there for you. I gave it to you to keep. So I gave you the actual, the document that's down there for download. It has the actual, the graphic here. It has the research questions that I created and how to use them. So you're welcome to download that, keep it, use it, do whatever you want with it, share it, put it up in your room, make a poster, whatever you want to do, you can have it. And just in case you might want some more information, these are phenomenal mind stretchers. So if you're interested in this and you think there might be something to it, even though you might not have caught all of it, this is just a small bite of something much bigger, but it's fascinating. And it gives you really gives you different ways of seeing how I act and behave and how other people react to me. So that was just eye-opening to me when I realized that, oh my gosh, like I'm impacting other people. Like it literally shocked me when I'm like, oh my gosh. And it was just a game changer for me. So there's that. Also a big thanks to Global Leadership Associates they were a part of my research, obviously. They're just fantastic, great resources if you want to learn more about this. I'm a certified coach for them too. So if you want to work one-on-one, you can. I'll be happy to. I actually have a deck of cards that we do with these that are actually live, and they're a real game. So if you're interested in learning more, I can do that with you and we can learn about it together. And the Center for Creative Leadership, amazing resource for anything about leadership or personal growth or working with teams. Phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal resource for that. And that's it for me. So thank you all for coming. I know there's not a lot of folks here that are getting ready to graduate, maybe, but if you are, my other friend that I graduated, she is the one who pushed me over the line to get done and graduate to finish my doctorate finally. And her name is C. Robinson, and she hosts Embrace the Pivot. So the work that she does is all about when you're ready to transition, how do you pivot into your next steps? So her and I kind of, she's fantastic. Like she's helped me pivot, I'll tell you that. So as you're graduating or coming through school or making a change, just remember that these resources are here for you and we're always here to help. Again, just the thanks to my friends, and please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or you want to learn more about this. I'm available and I'm here to help you. So please reach out, and and the cards are here, the transformation cards, we can do them, tons of fun. They take they take a little bit of time, and they actually, when we're done, you actually get a resource to take with you so that you can, remember your growth edges, where you are and where you want to be and how to get there, right? So that's another different kind of playbook for that. So that's it for me. So
we have a question in the chat. So what led you to do this research and what inspired you to do this?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So what led me to do this? It's a funny question, because my whole life I have been in science. I have been in clinical hospitals, research labs, I've built labs. That was my whole life. It was my whole consuming life. And then literally when I found these things, these resources, one of my professors, her name is Janet Greco, when I was at the University of Pennsylvania, first starting to kind of dip my feet into, like, why don't I really work well with teams? Like, why do I always work by myself? Like, why doesn't anybody want to work with me? I'm pretty cool, right? But because I was so far and so deep into my expert frame, I wouldn't let anybody near me to even touch my work. Like, I just wouldn't. And I missed a lot of opportunities because I didn't, right? I missed a lot. So once I started really realizing, she kind of she showed me this action inquiry, and I'm like, what is this? And the more I read about it, I was like, oh, now I get it, right? So once I really started, I couldn't stop. And I loved it so much. Like, I finished that work at Penn, and then I turned around like 5 weeks later and started my doctorate and just ran right through it. Because the program that I was in at Stockton was really based on this idea of vertical leadership, right? Then vertical leadership is very different than when we traditionally think of leadership. We think of MBA and tools and Excel sheets, and we need to have those as well, right? But we also need personal development to go with it, right? So now it's like I have both, right? Now I'm dangerous. I have both. So I'm learning to grow personally. I'm learning to grow, vertically, and I'm learning to develop this idea around trust and feedback and multiple perspectives and being aware of who I am and what my impact is with the people around me. And it's been wildly invaluable. So thank you for that question.
I have a question. So what type of leader are you? And can you be more than just one type of leader? Can you be multiple?
Yeah, so that's a fantastic question. And I think I skipped over my thinking when I was saying that. So yeah, so the idea of the dynamic fluidity, which came from Aline Herman Barker, who's from Global Leaders. She's a founding person of Global Leadership Associates, along with Bill Torbert. and her and Dr. Nancy Wallace, who works with them as well, they came up with this idea of this dynamic fluidity. And I mentioned it, but I didn't really tell you what it was. So dynamic fluidity is that, you know, as we learn and grow, like, you know, we start out our life down this end of the continuum. We are opportunists. We want to be fed when we want to be fed. We want to be changed when we want to be changed. And babies dictate everything. If you've had them, you know, they dictate your life forever, right? So, but that's their nature, and that's what they have to do to survive. And that's what opportunists do. They do what they need to do to feel like they are safe and that they can survive, right? So as we learn and grow, we go through all these different stages, and we learn and we stretch a little bit. We kind of put our legs out and we stretch out, and we start to transition. That's what we were talking about, my friend who does the pivot. We kind of pivot when we're getting ready to go to the next stage. If we were moved, so if, you know, we're getting the move now into Diplomat. And once we get all the way through Diplomat, we're like, yeah, you realize it, that you might realize, like, it just might dawn on you one day. You're like, you know, I don't think I would have done that before, right? I might not have taken that action before or thought of somebody in that way before. So it's kind of like a signal that you're ready to shift and move and grow into the next thing. So that's this idea of dynamic fluidity, is that as you go through these stages, you retain everything that you learn, right? So you still know how to get yourself fed if you need to, right? You still know how to work with people if you need to. You keep all those things as you grow. You don't lose them. And the idea is that when you're in different environments and different contexts, like these domains of the Cynefin framework, you know, you come to learn that certain things or certain situations require a certain kind of touch, right? You sense that, right? Like if I'm working with my children or if I'm in a classroom, I don't behave or talk to them the same way that I would is if I'm in the laboratory working on a research project, right? You just sense that there's this different way of acting and communicating and giving and receiving feedback. Like you wouldn't tell a fifth grader, you know, you can't get that. That's not the way you do that project. Like right? But you can, but me with my expert hat on, I totally would have told somebody at that point in time in my life that wasn't the way you ran this project. I wouldn't do that now because I've realized that I'm impacting people in a negative way, right? So you come to learn and grow through these behaviors. And the point of it is that once you're aware of where you are with your action logic, of course my phone's going to ring. You'll be able to recognize what context fits what action logic you have to put forth the best, and you choose that, and you choose those actions and those behaviors and ways of building trust and interpreting multiple perspectives. So it's all about, it begins within. So once you're aware, you can see better, you can do better, you can act better. We all can. So that's kind of how I see it.
Oh, and is there like a specific leader that you are or anything, or?
Oh, a specific leader that I am. You know what? Sometimes I'm all of those things, to be honest. And that's the beauty of this, is that you're not locked into one thing. Like if I might see a situation where I know, like you take, for example, 9/11. When 9/11 happened, everything was in chaos. There was no right answer. There was nothing like this had happened before, and we didn't know what to do. So the leaders were looking around going like, well, what do we do? So, you know, what happened was Giuliani kind of moved into that opportunist and said, this is what's going to happen. You're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And he led that way by telling people what to do, because that's what had to happen to get things back to normalcy and back under control, right? So different things for different circumstances. But now I think I don't want to say, I feel like I'm much more aware. I'm aware, and I try intentionally to do better and to be better, to treat people better, and to really listen to what they say, and really feel like I want to invite every single person I work with ever to my table now, which I wouldn't have done when I was younger. So I feel like I've transitioned more now into the other end of the spectrum, you know, on that continuum. So I'm, you know, more down that way these days. but I've been playing with this for a while. So everybody can get there. It just takes a little bit of practice and a little bit of awareness. That's all.
Oh, we have a question, hold on. So how can we teach or encourage current and future leaders to adopt and recognize this leadership style?
That's a good question. I've been thinking about that for a long time because I really feel like if everybody can understand this way of thinking around personal impact and awareness, and really, and I think what it took for me was for somebody really just to make me realize I was living in one kind of water. Like I was a fish and swimming in one fishbowl, right? But it just took that little shock, that little disruption for me to be like, huh, there's other fishbowls over there and over there and over there, and they all do things different, right? And once I became aware of that, I was like, oh, okay. So with practice, really teaching people that they have the power to do it, right? And you're not always what somebody tells you you are. You have the power to grow and be whatever you want. You can do and be whatever you want, right? It just takes this awareness and this fortitude and dedication really to grow through it. So, that's what I tell the students, when I talk at schools, I'm like, it all begins within and you can do it. You just need you need a model to show you the way, right? And that's why I built this model. So and it's simple, right? It's triangle, strongest structure in the universe. It can withstand anything and so can you. You can get through it and you can grow through it. And I just, talking to the students, I'm like, I just want them to know that they can do it. And it's okay. It's okay if you fail. Like failing is the best thing ever because it teaches you to pivot. Like you take those experiences and those perspectives in and do something different with it. Like don't make failure personal, personal. It's not. It's the process, not the person, right? It's always the process that isn't successful, not the person. So if they can get that idea, it makes it safe for them to try and fail. And who cares? Who cares? Like you do it and you try, and if it doesn't work, you take the learnings and you do something else with it, you pivot. So I love to tell students that because they're so, everybody's really afraid. Like that makes you very vulnerable, right? And nobody likes to feel vulnerable. But it's okay. It's okay, and it can make you wildly successful in all things if you just don't be afraid to fail.